My name is Leah, and my sister stole my boyfriend. They thought they could hide their affair by going on vacation together, behind my back. But I wasn't going to just sit back and watch. No, I turned their perfect trip into a disaster. My name is Leah, I'm 23, and honestly, my life just went off the rails like it was hit by a train. And not just any train. It was a giant betrayal express, with my sister Jenny and my boyfriend Mark sitting in the front row. Yeah, let's start with that mess. Jenny, she's 26, and she's always been the perfect older sister. You know, with long hair and $1 million smile. Like she walked right out of some ad where everyone's drinking cocktails on the beach and living their best lives. But recently, this princess announced that she needed to go on vacation. And not just anywhere, but with someone. And guess who that someone was? That's right, Mark, my damn boyfriend. Mark, who was never supposed to have anything to do with Jenny unless he suddenly decided to be part of some ridiculously twisted rom-com. And yeah, you probably have the same question. What the hell? Why would my boyfriend go on a trip with my sister? Well, Jenny gave some nonsense about how they needed to build trust. What? Build trust? That sounds like the fakest excuse anyone could come up with. Mark jumped on that bandwagon and said it was an opportunity to strengthen relationships. You know, like they were stuck in family therapy and suddenly decided, you know what, let's just take a trip together. That'll fix everything. For a moment. They didn't even try to hide this complete nonsense. They sat in front of me, trying to convince me this was normal. Like they were just going to grab coffee somewhere in the park. Seriously? As if they couldn't just play some board games, watch a movie, and for the love of God, stay in their damn friend zone. So, one day, I did something most people would consider a bit, wrong. Yeah, I checked Jenny's email. Don't ask how I got access. Sisterly telepathy? Well, not quite. And what do I see? A plane ticket. Not just a bus ticket to the next town over, but an actual plane ticket to Miami. At first, I thought she was just going there to relax, but something about the situation didn't sit right with me. This whole building trust thing seemed like a flimsy excuse for something more. Like someone was telling me, hey, dig deeper, there's definitely dirt here. So of course I did. And then, like a bolt from the blue, I stumbled upon a reservation under Mark's name. I saw that, and my brain lit up like in a cheesy melodrama. They're going together. Now, imagine my state of mind. It hit me like a ton of bricks. This wasn't just a vacation. It was an affair, guys. An affair they were planning to pull off right under my nose and then come back as if nothing had happened. You know how people say, oh, I was so shocked I didn't know what to do? Yeah, that wasn't me. My reaction was instant. What? They're going on a romantic trip together and think I'm just going to stay out of it and watch? No way. These two had no idea who they were dealing with. If they decided to run off, I would do everything I could to keep their plane grounded. I swear, their romantic getaway would turn into a nightmare before they even reached the airplane's boarding gate. Okay, let's clear one thing up. Do you seriously think I just sat in the corner, crying and grieving over how cruel the world is to me? Not a chance. Here's what really happens when you get betrayed. You either turn into a pathetic victim, or you switch on, I'm going to give you a show mode. Well, guess which one I chose? Tears? Come on. My tears dried up long before Jenny even made it to the airport. I wasn't about to sit at home in my pajamas with ice cream. If those two decided to wreck my life, they had no idea I was going to wreck their vacation. And hopefully, their pitiful relationship along with it. You should have seen how quickly this plan clicked into place in my head. Simple and genius at the same time. I didn't just want to ruin their dream flight. I wanted to make sure they never even took off. Yeah, it sounds like the beginning of some sinister blockbuster, but in reality, it was just a smart move on my part. They're going to Miami, right? Perfect. Time to turn their trip into a total failure. My plan was super simple. Make them go through such hell at the airport that they'd want to cancel the trip themselves. So there I am at the airport the night before their flight, cool as a tank, pretending I'm just another passenger, sitting in a cafe, sipping my coffee, watching them. You should have seen them walking through the terminal, hugging each other, whispering sweet nothings. A picture perfect. Look at us. We're the perfect couple. Disgusting. They thought the whole world revolved around their flawless love. Well, guess what, guys? Time for some disappointment. My hand reaches for the phone. I make the first call to airport security. Hello, anonymous sabotage. The game is on. I dial the number, pretending to sound concerned. Hey, I saw something weird. 2 people. They look really suspicious. Yeah, a blonde girl tall with a serious look on her face, and a guy, tall, dark hair, beard. They seem like they're hiding something, and acting very strange. I think you should check them out. Do you know what happens next? Magic. If you ever get the chance to watch how airport security works, it's like watching a chain reaction being set off. I sit back, sipping my coffee and nibbling on a croissant, while the security team starts scanning the terminal. At first, they look at all the passengers, but then their focus locks in on those 2. It's obvious that they've now become the center of attention. And me? I'm just enjoying the show. And here's where the fun begins. Have you ever seen a couple that was just enjoying their "we're so happy" moment suddenly face brutal reality? They're still flirting, whispering, and then 2 security officers approach them. Mark and Jenny's eyes go wide, like they have no idea what's happening. Of course they don't know, because they don't realize I'm behind it, watching their sweet moment turn into a scene from a bad thriller. Priceless. Mark's nervous. He's clearly not ready for questioning. Jenny tries to keep a straight face, as if she has no clue that their vacation is about to crumble. But inside I can see it. That anxiety, that fear. She already knows something is off. It's like watching a slow-motion disaster, and I'm savoring every second. The security check begins. Documents, tickets, luggage, everything. I would have loved to get closer, but from my seat in the cafe, I was already in bliss. They both look like a pair of students caught cheating on an exam. Have you ever seen 2 people trying to act innocent when they know they're in deep trouble? That's exactly what it was. And then, the climax. One of the officers squinted, like a detective in a crime drama, and asked the question that was the final nail in the coffin of their getaway. What's your relationship to each other? At that moment, I tensed up, holding my breath. Jenny squinted, clearly preparing to come up with some elaborate story. But she didn't have the chance. Mark, with his amazing ability to ruin everything, panicked and spilled it all right there. We're a couple, he said, and immediately turned pale, realizing what he had just said. Jenny literally froze in place, like she had just been struck by lightning. Yeah, this couple was planning to keep their little affair under wraps, but Mark gave them away without even thinking. He blurted it out. Oh my God, I nearly fell off my chair laughing. It was so perfect. Jenny tried to backtrack quickly. Well, it's a bit more complicated. She began to mumble, but the train had already left the station. The officers suddenly became much more interested. They started asking more and more questions. How long have they been together? Where exactly are they flying? Why do they have so much luggage for a short trip? And that's when it all started to fall apart. Jenny was trying to wiggle her way out of it and salvage the situation, but it was all lost. Mark just stood there with a face that said, I've just ruined everything. Yeah, you did, buddy. By this point, the crowd in the terminal had started to take notice of them. People were whispering, some even recording on their phones. Jenny saw this, and her face flushed with anger and despair. Her perfect vacation plan was sinking right before her eyes, and Mark was the anchor dragging them both down. Jenny, of course, didn't know what to do either. Her face, usually so perfect and confident, now looked like a mask of horror. She instantly realized that this scandal couldn't be hidden anymore, but she still tried to salvage the situation. Naturally, the attempt was pathetic. She turned to Mark and screamed, How could you? We were supposed to keep this a secret. Yes, sis, you were supposed to, but now it's too late. She was talking so loudly that she attracted even more attention. People around froze, as if someone had turned on a free movie screening right there in the airport. Mark stood there, pale as a marble statue. He clearly didn't expect things to go this way. It was the moment when even his brain probably realized he had just ruined everything. He mumbled something incoherent like, "I didn't mean to, I'm sorry," and all that, but it looked pathetic. "Yeah, Mark, you didn't mean to, but you did. You messed everything up." And then came the funniest part. People around started pulling out their phones. At first, quietly, one by one, but within a few seconds, there was already a crowd with their cameras out, recording this whole show live. It was, honestly, like watching one of those trashy reality shows that everyone loves to hate. They stood in the center of the hall, surrounded by a semicircle of spectators, like the stars of their own humiliation. Well, what can I say? They chose those roles, so they better be ready for the applause. People started whispering, gossiping, and I overheard someone say, "Hey, are they together? This is such a fail." And someone else chuckled, "Oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen at an airport." Some people, apparently bored while waiting for their flights, were more than happy to have this kind of entertainment. It seemed like the whole thing had turned into a spectacle for everyone. I just sat there, watching from the sidelines, quietly enjoying how my revenge was unfolding right in front of me. Jenny, realizing things were spiraling out of control, decided to go all out. She started yelling at Mark even louder, completely unbothered by the audience. "You ruined everything! This was our secret!" Mark looked like he wanted to disappear, vanish into thin air. He stood with his head down, as if that would help him disappear from the shame. But of course it didn't. The crowd was already filming and discussing who they were and what was happening. It was a total disaster, an absolute catastrophe, and honestly, I couldn't have been happier. "This is all your fault, Leah!" she screamed, turning toward me so fast I thought her head might fall off. She was yelling as if I were some demon that had come specifically to ruin her plans for this perfect escape to paradise. "You ruined everything. You just can't let us be happy." And you know, at that moment, I just couldn't stay quiet anymore. I started laughing quietly, but the laughter grew louder and louder until it turned into full-blown hysterics. Yes, I ruined their perfect plan. So what? I'm damn proud of it. Jenny stood there, blazing with anger, and I just smiled. It was that moment when you realize your revenge has succeeded, and now you can just sit back and enjoy the show. But what I didn't expect was for someone from the crowd to get involved. Yes, as if this airport scene wasn't enough. A man standing nearby suddenly shouted, "This looks like some kind of cheap affair." He wasn't even trying to be discreet. People around started laughing, and someone even clapped as if it were some kind of performance. Mark and Jenny tried to explain themselves, but the situation only kept getting worse. Much worse. The more they talked, the deeper they dug themselves into a hole. Mark tried to mumble something about a misunderstanding, but it sounded like he was apologizing for being born. Jenny, on the other hand, just kept making things worse, yelling at anyone who would listen. And then chaos truly broke out. The crowd wasn't just watching anymore. They were openly laughing at them. Jenny tried to shout something in her defense, but no one was listening anymore. People started to walk away, laughing, while Mark and Jenny stood in the middle of their little hell, not knowing how to escape. All right, brace yourselves, because what happened next was something no one expected. After all the screaming, accusations, and cheap side affair drama, the situation reached a new peak of absurdity. It was like the universe decided that one scandal wasn't enough, and threw in a few extra special effects for good measure. If I could have popped some popcorn, I definitely would have. Jenny, after the passengers started actively laughing at them, suddenly decided that she could regain control of the situation. How? Well, her logic was about as sound as trying to put out a fire with gasoline. She turned to Mark and started yelling something along the lines of, "You're worthless! This is all your fault! If you'd just kept your mouth shut, we would have flown out!" Yeah, Jenny, because yelling at the top of your lungs in an airport always solves problems. It's like trying to fix a car by kicking it. But who am I to explain that to her? Mark, as usual, looked like he wanted to disappear into thin air. He didn't know what to say, and all that came out of his mouth was something like, I didn't mean to." Seriously? You didn't mean to? Dude, you just laid all your cards on the table in front of a crowd, and now you're surprised your girlfriend, well, not mine anymore, LOL, is furious? It was so awkward that I almost felt a little sorry for him. Well, okay, that's a lie. I didn't feel sorry for him at all. He dug his own grave. Didn't think. Jenny switched into full destruction mode. Do you ever think? She literally pounced on him like a cat on a mouse. You ruined everything. We could have just flown out and enjoyed the vacation, but no. Now everyone knows about us. And then the most interesting thing happened. One of the passengers, who was practically bursting with laughter, shouted, "Yeah, because going on vacation with your girlfriend's sister is obviously a great plan, dude." Oh yes, he just poured fuel on the fire. Jenny looked like she was ready to explode. I wouldn't be surprised if she actually wanted to punch someone at that point, and Mark stood there, not knowing where to hide. But that's not all. The crowd started openly laughing. People were standing around with their phones out, filming the entire spectacle, and it looked like they were ready to upload this scandal to YouTube with the title, "Worst Vacation Ever." I saw a few people already recording everything, and one guy shouted, "Hey, this is better than any movie I've watched on a plane." Jenny realized that her last attempts to salvage her reputation had completely backfired. Of course, she couldn't just give up. "This is all your fault!" she screamed at Mark again, as if she had suddenly forgotten that half the terminal was recording her. "If it weren't for you, we'd already be flying to Miami." Mark, who was clearly broken by her yelling at this point, just looked at her with a face of complete defeat. He didn't even try to defend himself anymore. At that moment, it became clear to me that this whole thing had reached such a level of absurdity that it couldn't get any worse. People were still laughing, some loudly discussing what kind of idiot would go on vacation with his girlfriend's sister, and Jenny and Mark just stood there in the middle of the chaos, completely clueless as to how they ended up in this mess. And me? I stood at a distance, watching this disaster unfold, quietly laughing. It was something else, the complete collapse of their perfect little picture. Jenny, who always tried to be perfect, like the heroine of a cheap romantic comedy, now looked, to put it mildly, disheveled. Her hair was a mess, her makeup was slightly smeared, and honestly, I didn't know how she was still holding it together. All she had left was the attempt to salvage her pride. But those attempts were so pathetic that people had already started whispering about her. Mark, well, there's not much to say about him. He was literally escorted out by the security guards like a naughty schoolboy. Picture this. The guy who just moments ago was trying to hide behind Jenny, now being dragged out like a cat caught raiding the trash. At that moment, I think he wanted to disappear. And honestly, I couldn't blame him. This whole drama had spiraled completely out of control. Meanwhile, the passengers who were supposed to be flying with these heroes started getting upset. One guy, who clearly had no idea what was happening, loudly asked the flight attendant, "What the hell? Are they delaying the flight because of them?" Another woman declared that this was outrageous, and that she had paid for this flight, as if her money could somehow speed up solving the problem. The situation had escalated so much that the flight attendants were running around, not knowing what to do, while the security staff had that "why me" expression on their faces. And then, what could only be expected from Jenny happened. She pulled a disappearing act and ran into the bathroom. Yup, straight to the bathroom, as if she could hide from this whole catastrophe in there. Her face was red with shame, and it looked like she was about to explode from emotions. I think it was her way of escaping reality, because reality, to put it mildly, was falling apart. The funny thing was, she was always the one in control, and now she turned into a runaway, hiding from her own humiliation, behind the door of a bathroom stall. I sat in my chair, enjoying the spectacle like I was watching the final scene of a drama, where the main characters finally get what they deserve. It was a moment I would remember for a long time. The perfect revenge, and it turned out even better than I expected. Jenny, who always thought of herself as a queen, was now literally crumbling from shame. It was sweet, like the most delicious dessert. But you know what's even funnier? The consequences of this disaster didn't take long to hit. You know how our family works. One tiny thing and the whole house is in an uproar. Well, it didn't take even a day before my parents found out about everything. My mom? She was in shock. I think she couldn't believe her daughters were capable of something like this. We were always the good girls, right? Well, turns out Not always. Jenny, of course, tried to make me the villain. Like, it was me who ruined everything. If I hadn't interfered, they would have just flown off and enjoyed their lives. Ha, sure, sis, because your plan was so squeaky clean I just couldn't leave it alone. But the truth, as usual, came out. Mom didn't hesitate for long. She had that look in her eyes like she was ready to nip this in the bud. Jenny was put under house arrest. The first thing Mom did was take Jenny's phone away. Oh yes, that was like the final blow. Do you know how hard it is for a modern girl to be without her phone? Especially when she can't call Mark or post a story about how it's complicated. Mom literally cut her off from the outside world. And to emphasize the seriousness of the situation even more, she told Jenny, "You're not speaking to Mark anymore. It's over." Jenny was in complete despair. I saw her face when Mom said that. She looked like someone who had just lost the only meaning in life. But you know, it didn't seem like a tragedy to me. It was just justice. And so, after all the drama finally ended, I was left alone on the battlefield. Mark disappeared from my life as fast as if he'd never been there at all. I guess he realized that there was no going back from this and decided to vanish, like the trail of a plane that never took off. And that's fine. Seriously, even trying to get anything back with him would have been foolish. The guy didn't just fail our relationship, he failed at everything he touched. But strangely enough, I thought I would feel on top of the world after exposing them, ruining their vacation, and shattering their affair. And you know what? Instead of dancing on the ruins, I felt empty. Yeah, it was strange. I'd brought their whole plan crashing down, and yet something still felt unresolved inside. It's like I had served up all my anger and sarcasm on a platter, only to find that the plate was left empty. And now what? What do you do with that feeling? Let's be honest. Our house was so quiet afterward, you could hear a pin drop. My parents were clearly in shock that their perfect daughters had created such a circus. Jenny walked around the house like a ghost, and I didn't feel much better either. At first, it was funny to watch my parents trying to sort things out with Jenny, trying to understand what had actually happened. But then that icy silence settled over all of us. We just stopped talking. Words lost their meaning, as if no one knew what to say. Yeah, Mark disappeared, and that was a relief. No one wants to see the ex who betrayed you with your own sister. But you know, it would have been nice if I could have felt something more than just mild relief. So there I was, thinking about everything, and it suddenly became clear to me that revenge is a strange thing. At first you think it's going to solve all your problems. Like, you deal with the betrayers, bring their world crashing down, and there you have it. Justice, victory. But in reality, well, it's like eating a huge slice of cake. It's tasty, but in the end, you're left feeling kind of sick from overeating. You know what I realized? Sometimes revenge is like a bad movie. You wait the whole film for the final scene, thinking it's going to change everything, but in the end, it doesn't save you. Sure, it was great watching their relationship fall apart, seeing them dig themselves into a hole. It was like watching a slow-motion disaster, only I was the director of it. But the finale didn't give me the thrill I was expecting. There was no triumph, no feeling of being on top of the world, just me and my own thoughts.